The day I found out what Mama Rose was putting in her food, I threw up behind her shop, sat in the gutter for 20 minutes, and realized I had been eating it for 8 months straight. 8 months. Almost every day. And I had never once thought to ask why it tasted the way it did. Mama Rose ran a small booker on Allen Avenue, Lagos. Nothing fancy from the outside, plastic chairs with one leg shorter than the others, a hand-painted sign that had been rained on too many times, and one big black pot sitting on a gas stove that never seemed to cool down. But her jollof rice. Her jollof rice was not normal. 1 spoon and your eyes would close on their own. 1 full plate and the noise in your head went quiet, the rent you owed, the job you hadn't gotten, the call you were avoiding, all of it disappeared. People drove from Lekki, from Ikorodu, from Oja, which made no geographical sense at all. They came in clean cars and dirty danfos. They came in suits and in overalls. They all sat on the same plastic chairs and they all wore the same expression after the first bite, the look of someone who has just been told everything is going to be fine. Mama Rose herself was hard to ignore. Plump and glowing, with the kind of skin that looked expensive even when she was sweating over a stove. Her laugh was loud and genuine and she remembered everybody's name. She had a word for everyone who walked through the door. You've lost weight, eat more. You look stressed, sit down. The food will fix it. And the food always did. That was the terrifying part. She had 2 girls working for her. Sandra washed plates and kept mostly to herself, quiet, careful, the kind of girl who watched everything and said nothing. And then there was me. Temi. I had started as a customer and somehow ended up serving other customers. That is what Mama Rose did. She pulled people in and found a use for them. I noticed things from the beginning. Small things that did not add up. The pot was always hot before she lit the gas. Always. I thought it was my imagination the first time. The second time I put my hand near it before she started cooking and pulled back from the heat. She saw me and smiled. This pot has memory, she said. It remembers what to do. I laughed. I should not have laughed. I also noticed she sent us home early on certain evenings. Not randomly, there was a pattern. Every few weeks, on nights when the market was emptying and the moon was doing something particular in the sky, she would wave us off. Go and rest. You girls work too hard. I'll close up. Sandra always left without question. I always left with questions I did not ask. And then there was the thing I noticed that I could not explain away no matter how hard I tried. Mama Rose never ate her own food. Not once. In 8 months, I never saw her put a single spoon of her own jollof in her mouth. When customers praised it, she smiled and said she tasted it while cooking. When I asked her once, directly, why she never sat down and ate a full plate, she laughed that big laugh and said, "The cook never eats, my dear. By the time the food is done, I have already eaten with my nose." Perfect answer. Warm answer. The kind of answer that closes a door before you can see what is behind it. But I was Temi. I did not let doors close easily. The night everything changed, it started like any other closing time. Mama Rose counted her money, wiped down the counter, and looked up at us. Sandra, Temi, go home early tonight. You both look tired. Sandra picked up her bag. I picked up mine. We walked out. Sandra turned left toward the bus stop. I turned right, walked to the end of the street, and came back. I told myself I had forgotten my phone. I had not forgotten my phone. I pressed myself against the side wall of the booker, where the zinc had rusted and left a gap the width of 2 fingers. The market was almost empty. A few generators grumbling in the distance. A dog crossing the road without hurrying. The light inside Mama Rose's shop was still on. I put my eye to the gap. She was standing over the pot. Both hands raised at her sides like she was receiving something from the air above her. She was whispering, low, fast, rhythmic, and the words were not English or Yoruba or anything I recognized. They sounded old. They sounded like something that had been said in this world long before Lagos existed. Then she reached into her wrapper and pulled out a small black cloth tied at the top. She untied it slowly. Inside was a pad. Used. She held it over the pot and squeezed. Dark red drops fell into the jollof rice. The pot hissed like it was alive. The steam that rose turned a deep, ugly red for just 1 second, one single second, before clearing back to normal. Mama Rose smiled. Not her customer smile. Something else. Something satisfied and private and old. "Let them hunger for me," she whispered. "Let them come back and never know why." My legs went before my brain did. I was running before I made the decision to run, my chest tight, my stomach already turning, and I made it to the gutter behind the next stall before everything I had eaten that day came back out. I sat in that gutter for a long time. 8 months of plates ran through my head one by one. Sandra played the video. Nobody spoke for the full 19 seconds. The only sound was the bubbling pot and the distant noise of the city outside, carrying on like always, not knowing and not caring. Then Mama Caro whispered, "God forgive us. We have been eating this for years." The pastor took 3 steps backward. One of the traders walked out of the shop and did not come back. Mama Rose looked at all of them. Then she looked at me. "You," she said. Just that. Her voice was no longer warm. It had dropped to something flat and cold and ancient. "I should have sent you home earlier." "Yes," I said. "You should have." By 11 o'clock, the street knew. The video passed from phone to phone the way fire moves in Harmattan, fast, unstoppable, leaving nothing behind it the same. People who had eaten at that booker for years stood outside in their nightclothes with their hands over their mouths. A woman sat on the curb and cried quietly. 2 men argued about whether it was real. Then one of them watched the video a second time and went silent. Mama Rose was walked out of Allen Avenue that night by the community, not violently, but firmly and publicly, with every shutter on the street open and every face watching. She carried nothing. Just the wrapper on her back and what was left of her dignity. At the gate where Allen Avenue meets the main road, she stopped and turned around one final time. The street was full behind her. All the people she had fed. All the people who had loved her, praised her, spent money they did not have just to sit on her plastic chairs. She looked at all of us and said something I have never forgotten. "You think the hunger dies because I am leaving?" Her voice was calm. Almost kind. Hunger was never me. Hunger is the empty space inside all of you that made you eat without asking questions. I only found the space and filled it. The space was already there. She turned and walked into the dark. Nobody followed. Nobody answered. Because the worst part of what she said was that some of it was true. Allen Avenue was quiet for weeks after that. Mama Caro stopped cooking and reopened 3 weeks later with only pepper soup, saying she needed time before she could face a pot of rice again. The boy who had gotten the free plate kept coming to the empty stall every afternoon for a month, not understanding why the food was gone. Mr. Adeyemi had the big black pot removed and thrown away. Nobody touched it. They used a cloth to carry it to the truck. And Sandra quietly cleaned out the old stall, painted the walls white, and put up a small chalkboard outside. No big sign. No fanfare. Just a chalkboard that said, "Sandra's Kitchen, fresh food, clean hands, honest price." Her jollof rice was not the kind that made you forget your name. It did not make the noise in your head stop or make you feel like everything was going to be fine. It tasted like someone had put real time and real care into it. It tasted like something made by a person who needed nothing from you except the fair price written on the chalkboard. The first week, only 4 people came. The second week, 8. By the second month, the plastic chairs were full again. Not because of any secret. Not because of anything hidden in the pot. But because hungry people, once they have been burned, learn to appreciate food that does not ask anything from them in return. I still eat there every Friday. And every single time Sandra puts the plate in front of me, she says the same thing, like a promise she renews every week. This one, I made with clean hands. 5 words. The most important 5 words I have ever heard said over food. Because after everything, after 8 months of eating something dark and not knowing, after the video and the night and the things Mama Rose said at the gate, what I learned is this. The most dangerous hunger is not in your stomach. It is in the part of you that wants so badly to feel good that it stops asking how. Guard that part. Feed it carefully. And always, always ask who made the food before you eat. Some people will feed you with love. Some will feed you with agenda. The difference is not always in the taste. It is in whether they can look you in the eye after the plate is empty.